conversations outside the chambers. If you're here to speak under public comment on a particular item on the agenda, please fill out a request to speak card and turn it into the city clerk, and I have several here. The cards are located near the doors at the back of the chambers. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Bragg?
Here.
Councilmember Spriggs?
Here.
Councilmember Patton?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem West?
Here.
Mayor Dudina?
Here. And now it's my pleasure to invite Alexis Gonzalez, a senior at Mar Vista High School of Girl Scout Troop 5447, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Alexis, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have the disclosure report part of the evening, and starting with Councilmember Bragg. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the Imperial Beach Chamber of Commerce for hosting the Candidates Forum on September 26th. Some of our council members were present. Many of the audience was present as well. It was a great evening. September 20th, as our representative to MTS, I did attend the board meeting and the Accessibilities Committee meeting in the same day. September 21st, I attended the Transportation Committee meeting at Sandag. October 1st, I attended the LAFCO meeting as well. Upcoming events will include this Saturday is our Auto Fest, which starts at 9 o'clock. And another really important event, but I'm not going to steal the thunder from, I think, our city clerk. On Friday, this is something very near and dear to, I hope, everybody's heart. OLF Imperial Beach Ream Field will be celebrating their 100-year anniversary with a ceremony at 10 o'clock on Friday. If you're a member of either the South Bay Historical Society or the Imperial Beach Historical Society, please contact the president, Jane McLaughlin, or myself. If you would like to be in attendance, you do need to have an ID card to get there. But what a wonderful event, 100 years, quite remarkable. And then in closing, you'll notice that some of us up here, all of us up here are wearing pink. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast cancer remains the second leading cause of deaths among women in the United States. About 1 in 8 U.S. women will develop invasive breast cancer over the course of her lifetime. Although Native American and Alaskan Native women have a lower breast cancer, many of you know my sister's going through cancer. So I'm going to ask Ed Spriggs to finish this. Sorry.
Although American Indian and Native American women have a lower breast cancer incidence rate compared to other groups, those who develop breast cancer are more often diagnosed at a later stage when it is harder to treat. Remember to set up an appointment for regular screenings and a mammogram.
Thank
Mr. Spriggs.
On the 20th, following our last, the day after our last council meeting, I was honored to be a participant and a panelist in the Federal Emergency Management Agency's San Diego Risk Map and Coastal Discovery Workshop, which was an all-day workshop at the San Diego County Emergency Operations Center. A couple senior members of Imperial Beach's staff who are really working on these issues. Jim Noctagawa and Chris Helmer were also present at that workshop. I think I was the only elected official there or asked to speak. And what they wanted me to talk about was how do you engage the community? How do you engage fellow elected officials? What are some of the ways to translate the science of coastal erosion, sea level rise, etc., into terms that the general public can get their arms around and begin to act on? And for us all to be able to develop policies to address these short, medium, and long-term threats. I thought it was a very successful workshop. A lot of good ideas came out of it. The following day, we here in Imperial Beach, interestingly, had our own public workshop on the updating of our local coastal program and general plan. That was at the Dempsey Holder Safety Center from 3 to 5, and that was followed by taking all that information out to the farmers market and having sort of an open air public opportunity to look at what's being done to update our local coastal program to address some of these coastal threats as well. And I thought that was a great idea to have that available for the public, and a number of people did come up and ask good questions at that. And then just last Thursday, I led the monthly conference call of the Coastal Cities group leadership team for the League of California Cities, following up on our conference in Long Beach, where we had a very well-attended annual meeting, and what the next actions are going to be. And those are going to involve some very direct, collaborative conversations with the Coastal Commission senior staff on how do we get the coastal cities and the Coastal Commission to avoid a collision course on some of the policies that are of concern to the cities. So I'm hoping that those discussions will be successful. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. September 22nd, I had the pleasure of going to the Dempsey Surf Contest. It was the 15th annual, and there were over 100 men, women, boys, girls there. It's sporting events like this that continue to bring really quality people to Imperial Beach. We have the Ironman, we have the CrossFit, we have the Dempsey, which is, like I said, 15 years and going strong. So it was a great event. On September 27th, I went to the South County EDC reception at Bikeway Village, where we're able to show off to elected officials exactly what Imperial Beach has to offer. And there's an area there called, I guess it's called the Preserve now. And people were just so impressed with that area. And it's going to start to take off. And all these elected officials that were there, we're going to definitely be back. And bringing people and telling people about Bikeway Village. So it's a great event, and many were impressed. And again, I look forward to the car show as well. It's going to be very nice.
Great,
Thank you.
Lori, I'm so happy you keep reminding us, so you keep us on track for these monthly things, and we all say sorry for your situation. We really do. Yeah. On September 21st, I was as the alternate in South County. I was the Sandag Public Safety Committee was represented. September 24th, I attended as the South County representative for our San Diego Regional Airport Authority, the Executive and Finance Committee. And then over the past few days, I've been spending the time in DC as a member of the San Diego Chamber representing Imperial Beach. A couple highlights that I wanted to talk about a little bit about. First of all, I met with Major General Colignaise, who is the commander of installations and logistics. And the reason why that was important is we discussed a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we discussed a lot of different aspects of how we can improve traffic off base facilities. And we really talked about the outlying field and actually the Naval Coastal Complex. And I really made a point to make sure that, hey, we really need to make sure that the promise that was made to us to synchronize our lights down Palm Avenue was followed through on, and they were going to get back to us and make sure that would get done. So I was very happy. And then also we used that time to actually talk about how we can measure air quality and improve air quality in our community, because the flow of traffic is a major contributor. And SDG&E was very happy to work with the California Air Resource Board to work to install some pollution guidance. And then I was lucky enough to spend a time speaking with Senator Dianne Feinstein. I think you guys know that they just passed NAFTA. Now it's going to our Congress for Senate and House approval. And we really wanted to make sure that there is some language that gets put in NAFTA that actually talks about border infrastructure, and in particular, border infrastructure when it comes to cross-border pollution and water. So I know the mayor is going to talk a little bit more about that. But and then I also met with the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy and Installation. It's a civilian. We were discussed with UCSD and Scripps how our community is unique in San Diego County, because it's actually got three sides for water, and that really is an effect in sea level rise. So UCSD and Scripps is working together, really studying our area. I know that Mayor Dedina actually worked with them before, and they are looking at using our community as kind of a test bed. And the Navy was very excited and very adamant about, hey, we need your results sooner than later, because it's very much a concern. And then also at the last thing, I was very excited. I was able to meet with Congressman Peters about he is really taking the time. I know we got the BWIP this year was at $10 million. Well, originally it was actually at $15 million, and he is wanting to restore that funding back to the $15 million level. So I think
that's for border infrastructure.
Yep, border infrastructure. So really it was a productive trip. And the thing that finished it off, though, finished it off with the Pentagon tour, where Flight 77 slammed into the Pentagon, and got to see that as well. And somber, but the people in the Pentagon are great individuals working towards the future. So it was a moving event, to say the least. So yeah, all that.
Great, thanks for attending that. Appreciate it, and all those the meetings you had. We did meet with Mayor Kevin Faulkner, Mayor Chula Vista, the Mayor of National City, and then a council member from Coronado. Specifically talked about the issue of writing a joint letter to ask the Navy to advance funding for synchronizing the lights on Highway 75. So that would go from Coronado to Saturn Boulevard in San Diego. So Andy, our city manager, Mr. Hall, is working on that and the follow-up on that. Additionally, I did talk with Congressman Scott Peters as well about that. And then Andy's in communication with his staff to follow up on that. So I think that's something. We brought this up again, so this is really definitely a priority, because it's very clear that those lights are what's really hindering traffic along, and making it a lot worse. It's not good. So anyway, that is a strategic priority for the city, and we definitely need the help of all our partners on that. San Diego board meeting last week was really talking about just all their investments in transit and highways. So just making sure they have enough money to do that. So that's a big deal. And then I'm the chair of the San Diego Borders Committee. It's actually a really moving meeting. We had discussing the tribal transportation strategy. Borders Committee is not just borders with Mexico, it's borders with our county partners, Imperial, Riverside, and Orange County, as well as our tribal partners. And we have the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association and 18 tribal nations in San Diego County, the largest number of tribes of any county in the country. And so the tribes had worked with SANDAG to actually develop a transportation strategy. And as they really said, there's a lot of tribes that are doing well because of casinos, but many are not. And so it's been really interesting to work with those the tribal nations to really help them advance their transportation goals, but also discuss the positive economic impact they have on San Diego. So one of my goals as board chair has been really to actually increase the way that we work with the tribes and pay more attention to that. So they just had a tribal summit meeting every 4 years. We decided to do that every year to make sure that tribal leaders and leaders in San Diego County really have a chance to work together. So that has been the unexpected benefit of service on the Borders Committee, really getting to know tribal leaders a lot. They have a high regard for Imperial Beach, and I think our work with tribal leaders has really helped us work on issues of cultural resources as well in the city, along with the Fish and Wildlife Service and State Park. So anyway, that was nice. Anyway, and with that, Mr. Hall, I think you have an announcement on Symphony by the State.
I do. Mayor and Council, as you know, there's one event here that's just one of my favorites. We just really enjoy it. And that's Symphony by the Sea. And one of the employees here just puts out an amazing amount of effort to make that happen. And she wanted to take a few minutes tonight and talk a little bit about the Symphony by the Sea. So our city clerk, Jackie Kelly, who puts this together, and everyone loves this event, wanted to take a few minutes to tell everyone about it.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This year's event will be held on Saturday, October 6th at Pier Plaza, and it will be featuring two of San Diego State University's ensembles, and it's the Wind Symphony and Symphony Orchestra. And we are excited to announce that during the intermission, Mar Vista High School Band will be performing. So please come out. It's a free concert. Let's cheer on not only SDSU, but our local Mar Vista High School Band. So please come out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Looking forward to that one. Any additional comments? Now we have the public speaker comment about that, and I know, Jerry, you said maybe you might need more than 3 minutes, but that's fine. Okay. And we have Mike Bixler. Thank you, our former mayor and port commissioner. Pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Hall, and your senior staff, citizens. My name is Mike Bixler, 1192 Seacoast Drive, Imperial Beach property owner for many years. I request, Madam Clerk and Clerk, that my remarks be put into the public record verbatim. I stand with you tonight to raise the issue of the proposed project for public restrooms at the foot of Beach Avenue in Imperial Beach. I can't get my hands on the exact number, whether it's $1 million project or $3 million, but any way you cut it, it's a lot of money. I can't get a clear trail on where this idea came from and what its legislative history is, both here at the City of Imperial Beach and at the Port of San Diego. About all I can find out so far is that perhaps someone here under public comments offered the observation that there were people urinating in the riprap or foliage or whatever on South Seacoast Drive, and some in fact defecating as well. And they asked that the issue be looked at. I wasn't here. I don't know. It didn't come up when I was mayor or port commissioner. Somehow that got referred to the Port of San Diego. The best I can tell, that was perhaps 2010, 2012. What I have been able to find out through the help of Jackie, the city clerk, that on April 15th of 2017, the council here had an agenda item on it. I haven't seen the minutes of it. I don't know who voted for what. I don't know what the discussion was at all, but somehow that came from, and I left it out, I'm sorry. There was no, that's fine, 2017. So from the time it was referred here to coming back to the council in 2017 to the port rollout of the project on Beach Street on March 27th, the citizens didn't know anything about it unless they happened to be at the April 15th, 2017 meeting. We don't find any reference in the city newsletter. We don't find any reference in the public press. We don't really have a trail on the matter at Port District. How does a project that start out as an idea, as a concern, advance to the $1 to $3 million level without any public participation, real participation? In my view, briefings by the port commissioner.
Did you have a lot longer, Mike?
Pardon me?
Were you going to continue a lot longer? Or?
No, I won't be very long. Thank
Okay.
you, Mayor. I appreciate the latitude. How does it get this far to the 30% design phase of the project without a public hearing? How does it get this far? How do you get the project this far on the coast of California today without a public hearing, without public notice to all the affected and interested property owners, and an aggressive public announcement program? It's a serious matter. So thank you for the extra time, Your Honor. Pleasure to see all of you.
Great, thanks. Mr. Quinn? I'm sorry, Mr. Pimentuan.
Thank you, everyone. He's going to hand out some pictures that were disturbing that I've seen and I want to ask the council about tonight. My name is Jerry Quinn, 20 years here in Imperial Beach, lifelong resident, lifelong registered Democrat. Just for the record, I'm actually married to a refugee and an immigrant. So that said, I was the one that was up here about the sanctuary city problem. Well, it comes to my attention now that Paloma, who I'm finding that a lot of people represent, I represented at one point, now does not represent my views or the views of all of my citizens here in Imperial Beach, or most of them. She has openly advocated Mexico become America again, and also disrespected our commander-in-chief. I'd like to read a letter that me and my citizens of my neighborhood have wrote to the city council as an open forum. First, we would never vote for anyone who supports making America Mexico again, or someone who does not recognize the current government or leaders whom he or she may be. That said, there's no way that my friends, my neighbors, neighborhood would vote for Paloma Aguirre. We do not support her views to overthrow the U.S. or give back to Mexico. Period. We do not recognize or respect, she does not recognize or respect our current commander-in-chief, no matter whom he or she may be. And we always respect the rule of law. Paloma Aguirre's views do not represent 90% of the city, so she does not represent our interests. We do not want her to be, or we do not want Imperial Beach to be another San Francisco here in IB. We do not want federal politics to interfere with our local politics. That said, she does not represent the military, DHS, law enforcement families that have sacrificed generations of family members to uphold the rule of law, so she can proudly uphold those terrible signs that you are seeing here today. And those signs say F the president, they say make America Mexico again, and a few other things that I can't mention. The president and make America Mexican. So yes, you have the right, she does have the right to her views as a private citizen, and she makes it clear what those views are, but she's not running as a private citizen. She's running as a representative of our city, wanting to represent us. And that does not represent us. And what I want to know here today is how many of you support her in her candidacy after seeing who she really is. I know that 3 of you have given money to her campaigns. That's on record. But I would like a vote here today from each one of you, a yes or no. Do you support this? Is this what you want Imperial Beach to become?
Yeah, Mr. Quinn,
this
isn't a trial,
come
so
to Imperial Beach?
we can't respond to this. So
Okay,
it's not a
okay.
trial.
Look, so please let me finish. So that's crazy that she doesn't represent us or represent our personal views. She is pretending to represent us, actually representing her own personal views and her own personal agenda. I would like to each one of you to go on the record saying yes or no before the election whether you support this woman. And we know that you have before you've seen these pictures. Now that you've seen them and I bring them to your face, I would like you to publicly announce whether you do or not, so we know who we can support come election time. I already know Mark West, you support her 100%. You sent me a text saying no matter what, that you spent 24 years in the service, took an oath for her personal views. But I say that, yeah, that's right. That is her personal views, and she has a right to proudly pronounce those, but not if she's running to represent us, the citizens of Imperial Beach. We are the ones that are being represented here. None of you are there to represent your own personal views. You're there to represent us, the people. And that was one of the things that I've never heard at the forum the other night was, I will represent what the people want, what the people say, or what the people need. So that said, I would like all of you to go on record by the next city council telling us what your views are so we know whether to re-elect you or re-elect you, Mr. Mayor, if you support this type of person. And the other concern that I have, Mayor, is that she is an employee of Wild Coast. She does get paid quite a bit of money. And is that a conflict of interest? Is she just going to be another vote for you? And subconsciously, is she just going to vote your way because you pay her salary? So will she agree if she does win, God forgive she doesn't, to resign from Wild Coast under those circumstances? I mean, that is an issue that I have. It's a very concerning issue because right now you do not have the controlling vote. And bringing Palomar in will give you the controlling vote of the city. And that concerns me. I like all you people up here as friends, but when it comes to politics and it comes to this great nation, with me, it's God, country, and family. And that's all there is to it. And nothing becomes between my country and my God and my family. So please choose wisely and choose the city and the representation of the city. Thank you very much.
Brian Connor. Are you speaking, or are you just saying no comment? I just opposed Beach Avenue conversation. Is that right? Is he here? Is Brian Connors here? He was here then. Okay. Travis Brazil. Did you want to speak?
Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Travis Brazil, 1230 Seacoast Drive, Imperial Beach, number 5. I ask that my remarks be included verbatim in the public records. Speaking as a property owner, I am opposed to this proposed comfort station. Opposed to this proposed at the coast and beach. The first that anyone was aware that this project was moving forward was Tuesday, March the 27th, 2018. I quote, the Port of San Diego and the City of IB invite the public to attend an open house to view design concepts. Now, I learned that on April the 5th, 2017, the council approved the agenda item, or at least it was considered. I'm confused. I don't know when. Yet, no one that I have talked to remembers anything about any newsletter or public comment pertaining to this agenda item. Where does this leave the public? I suggest that this matter come before the city council before the next election in November with proper notice. And that could be anything from city notice to newspapers. I just want the public to have a chance to either they support the comfort station or they don't. All I'm asking is that for a public hearing. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Hall, I'm assuming
I just want to make sure my comments are in the public record as well.
they're
Thank
all
you.
in the public record. I'm assuming you'll get Mr. Brazil and former Mayor Bixler the information on the project, including the actual cost of $700,000, the number of public hearings, including the public workshop at the actual site, and the notifications that were mailed to the residents.
Yeah, I believe the city clerk
Okay,
put
that's
that
good.
together.
Thank you. And now we have presentation 1.1, presentation of quilts of Imperial Beach lifeguards in City Hall by Thursday morning quilters. And I'm sorry, the Imperial Beach quilters. And now we have the Imperial Beach quilters will give a presentation, and Imperial Beach Marine Safety Officer Chief Stabenow will also receive a quilt from for the lifeguards. So happy to have you here. Robert, are you coming up? Good.
Yes, thank you. First of all, address all of you. Thank you for all that you do to keep our city safe and to make the wise and the sound decisions that we need, okay, to the city. So first of all, to the city of Imperial Beach, this one, we want to, we made a quilt and then we named it home, our town. And this is, I'm sorry, I'm remiss in here. These are 4 of our quilters out of 12. Everything was done by hand. But this represents Imperial Beach. Sandra, mother-in-law, a couple weeks ago. So it represents, trying to get the flamingo in there though, along with the woody. Okay, so everything was done by hand, and each quilter designed their own square with our teacher, our leaders, sort of playing it or spreading it out, but giving them that.
That was hard work. Come on, guys.
So, here we go. We raise it higher, get the bottom of it.
Yes. That was so perfect. You don't even know what you just did. It was just
Not too tall. So, thank you again for all you do, and we wanted it in a small way. Yes, I have one more here. Thank you. And so this is for our lifeguard. Again, they do just so much to keep our beaches safe and just all the things they do. I was telling people in other areas that I've sat here recently about these, and had a couple people share that and they were just so happy going. They'd walk the beach, which is what they wanted to do, and they were so happy with the lifeguard being friendly to them. They were not used to that, and so that even more impressed us as well. So we're so proud of everything our whole city does. As you know, we've done one for the sheriff's department and the fire department. So these were one. So. Thank you very much. Oh. Okay. With you, them, not us.
Oh, with you guys. Oh, we need the important part.
Okay.
I didn't know you were cool. That one. That's great. Well, my president, I see how work back there.
Yeah.
So each one of you guys picked the square and designed it.
See, this is
Who did the
right here,
waves down
there's
at
a
the bottom?
rock. And there were 12.
They're
that
awesome.
worked
They're kind of
on it, so
badass, right?
this
Really cool.
represents each
Really
one.
cool.
So
Thank you so much.
My mom and my grandma. Oh, that's right.
Awesome.
I got some really neat ones. Grandma made them.
Oh, you
How
have
long
to
time
come
it
in and
takes.
share it
Yeah.
to us. Okay. Thank you. Real quick, there was 12 filters that, yeah. For the four of us to represent.
Hey, Mayor, do you mind if I say something real quick? I just wanted to, quilts throughout history have been done when there are times of need because they represent warmth and bringing people together. And there's a lot of really famous quilts that have been, a really bad time in our history is going, and these quilts are done and really bring people together and make people feel like a community. So I am really happy about this. You could look through our history and find many numerous quilts that have really made an impact on us, and you made an impact tonight. So thank you.
Thanks. Okay, and now we have another presentation and proclamation and recognition of Code Enforcement Officer Appreciation Week. It is appropriate that we're recognizing our code enforcement officers tonight during Code Enforcement Officer Appreciation Week. Later in the agenda, we'll be discussing various ways to reduce the amount of trash, debris, and pollution in our city, and our code enforcement officers are on the front lines of this. I would like to ask Sam Guevara and Leslie Seifert, who are certified code enforcement officers through the State Code Enforcement Officers Association, to come to the podium while I review a couple of statistics. Before that, I would like everyone to know that I realize just how hard their job can be. Trying to strike a balance between a clean and tidy community with limited government interference is a challenge. In 2018 alone, our officers opened 584 cases ranging from business license violations to nuisance abatement. More than 2,817 inspections were performed. Wow, that's amazing. And citations with fines of $9,575 were issued. Even though their job is very hard, we appreciate and recognize the efforts of our code enforcement officers with the following proclamation. And I have the proclamation here. And I'll just say, now therefore it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Imperial Beach hereby proclaims the second week of October in 2018 and annually thereafter be known as Code Enforcement Officer Appreciation Week in the City of Imperial Beach, and be it further resolved that the City Council calls upon Imperial Beach residents to join in recognizing and expressing their appreciation for the dedication and service by the individuals who serve as our code enforcement officers. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
guys.
much. Here, let's go. Here. Here.
You know, when people tell me how nice City of IB looks, and I get lots of those comments, how much the IB's improved, and it's really thanks to the efforts of your team, you guys and your team. It's been really awesome. And I want to thank the City Council colleagues and our city staff for changing the way we do business in code enforcement, making it a lot fair, but also a lot more strategic and effective. So anyway, really, really appreciate that. That's a significant improvement in the quality of life for the IB residents, and you guys have really made a difference. Thank you. And no one beside, I get a lot of satisfaction at tearing down chain link fences and stuff like that, and seeing blight improve that I've been around since I was a kid. I cannot tell you how much that means to me. So really appreciate it. All right, and Mr. Partlow, I think you wanted to talk on item 2.1, is that correct? So right now we're going to doing consent calendar 2.1, and I know you want to have a public comment.
Beautiful quilt, lady. You like this back?
You just leave it there.
Good evening, everybody. Baron Partlow, City of San Diego, 1868 Taylor Street, 92154. Founder of Stop the Poop. I'm also on the Citizens Forum Board of the International Boundary Water Commission. I'm going to touch on that just for a second before I move to the transboundary sewage crisis. Dr. Stebbins, the senior marine biologist from the City of San Diego, gave an excellent presentation at the Citizens Forum Board about the Point Loma and South Bay outfalls and how they're synchronizing the programs to not only monitor, but actually the extensive testing. And I'm sure most of you are aware of that report. And there was something printed in the Eagle Times last week or the week before that. So you could refer to that. I have something else very pressing I'd rather discuss right now. And it is about cancer. First and foremost, my mom died of cancer. She is a Native American. It wasn't breast cancer, but it was cancer. We all know we lost Mrs. Brown to cancer. And before that, we lost Mr. Brown. Angie, after her mom died, Angie Brown, their daughter, disclosed to me that after her father died, she went on Facebook and asked how many people in her immediate neighborhood around the estuary have lost somebody to cancer or have cancer. And almost immediately, 8 people responded. Then her mother died. Same neighborhood. I get reports all the time as founder of Stop the Poop, people asking me all the time, what is the smell coming from the estuary? And we don't have any spill reports from IBWC. There was somebody who gave us a photograph this past weekend, of a sewage pipe leak in Borderfield State Park, and I posted it on the Stop the Poop page. And that was on this side of the border. So I'm very glad to hear that we're getting a possible $15 million back into this side's infrastructure. Now, there is not just a transboundary sewage issue. This is toxic chemical contamination, and it is not an issue. It is a crisis. And I scream at the top of my lungs, it is a crisis. We are losing people here to cancer. And they're around that estuary. There is something in there that isn't coming out. It is in the soil. It is not tested. Those results, if they are taken, are not given to us. We need to test every square inch of that place and find out what the hell is in it. Period. And the river as well. We know what's on our beach. And we can say it is there and it's not there. We can talk about Punta and the South Swell. It's intermittent.
Are you done,
We need
Mr.
to
Partlow?
find out what's
Great,
going
thank
on.
you so much. I appreciate it. And now I'd like to entertain a motion to approve consent calendar item number 2.1. Please vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Great. Item 5.1, discussion regarding the reduction of pollution sources in Imperial Beach. City Manager Hall will give the report.
Mayor and Council, as Chris is making his way up here, as the mayor mentioned, one of the things we're trying to work on is a document that
you
will
hit us
help
with
us
that
to
photo.
help us to reduce pollution in our community. And so we put together some items that we want to address with the city council so we can get some direction as we start to pull this together so that we can bring it to you in the future. So I'll turn some time over to Chris.
Just, Chris, I was at the end of that photo at 11 getting dragged down the beach in front of the rocks. So I'm just like a little speck. The lifeguards were probably looking at me with binoculars. So anyway.
That's one of the 3 of them, right?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
JC Monhay. I think it's Peter Stewart or Jack Stewart in the
Yeah, that
photo.
was just a couple days ago. So the city council and city staff have taken a number of steps already to address a number of pollution issues in here. And like one of them was our marine and community protection ordinance. But cities have still been getting reports, and you guys have been providing comment, and we've been just making regular observations just from staff that we're still having a significant issue of increasing debris and pollution in our community. And these are just some of the issues that we're kind of dealing with, abandoned or broken vehicles that are on the street, legal dumping in alleys, shopping carts. And we tend to know the areas that these things are on, and we have a program in place on it. Commercial businesses that don't manage their trash storage areas, multifamily homes that have the same issues as some of the commercial businesses, and then just obviously some lazy individuals, that park their car and then open their door and throw their trash out the door. These are kind of the known issues. We still have some emerging issues too that keep coming out here. There's some increases in homelessness, and there's a few individuals that are known to the city that are kind of messy individuals that are issues for the city to address. There's increases in use of the Bayshore Bikeway. There's a tremendous explosion of visitors and people using the Bayshore Bikeway, and even Bikeway Village area. There's a lot more use on that area, and historically that has not been an area that the city has had much attention for or maintenance towards. Similarly, there's a dramatic increased use of our city parks. If you go on Sunday to either Veterans Park or Sports Park, it will be absolutely trashed. The first half of every Monday morning is clean up our parks. There's more visitors generally in all over our town. There's more businesses. There's more people on the streets. There's actually, surprisingly, we've had a dramatic increase in enforcement cases. We work with code enforcement, but Public Works has its own code enforcement too. We've had 200 cases this last year of Public Works code enforcement cases, mainly related to trash and illegal dumping of debris. And then I also put on here the Fish and Wildlife Service and state parks have eliminated their maintenance staff in this area. So the city has actually stepped up and put our city trash cans and do our city patrols along their boundary in the areas because they have lost their own budgets to maintain it, and those are critical areas for the city. So all that kind of adds up to these issues. And I wanted to throw this chart up here too. This is the coastal cleanup stats from 2017. Kind of gives you like what are the most common things around. And honestly, these are the things that we're finding on the streets. A lot of. I mean, cigarette butts are big, plastic is big. Utensils and stuff, single-use plastic are kind of the big things on it. So before we kick off discussion, and the real purpose of this is to really have council discuss what city staff has already been discussing for a while. You guys should be aware of what are our current efforts, and these are like the tools the city has to address the marine and pollution debris. So the main program, overarching program, is the city's stormwater management program. Under that, we have things like street sweeping. And I would say we have a very robust street sweeping program. We street sweep commercial areas once a week, beachfront areas twice a month, and all other residential areas and all city alleys at least once a month. Another thing that you may not be aware of we do, but EGCO goes and they pick up large bulky items, anything illegally dumped that's in our city alleys once a week. So during the whole week, we take calls from residents and we take calls from staff. All our staff knows to go through the alleys every week and let our front office know where the couches are, where the mattresses are. And on Thursday, we give that list to EGCO. On average, we have 20 items that they pick up every week in our alleys. And these are like big items like couches and sofas and mattresses. So that's a tremendous service that they provide. We have our own public works code enforcement side. Another important part of our stormwater program is our watershed water quality improvement plans that we have. The water quality improvement plans have highest priority pollutants. One of them is physical aesthetics for the San Diego Bay watershed. That is not just trash, but how the environment looks. Part of our watershed efforts is we're working with the city of Chula Vista and the city of Coronado and the city of San Diego, and we're doing a public perception survey. We're working with a social marketing firm and understanding what do people perceive as being the biggest blights on the San Diego Bay front. And that's information that will help inform our own programs and evolve our watershed programs over time. And another big item here, which I'm currently working on, and we have a big report that's due by January, is the state trash policy. So we're required by December this year to give the water board, the San Diego Water Board, a report of how the city's going to have zero trash leaving our storm drain systems on here, and we're required to put full trash capture devices throughout the city, and we'll have a plan, and I'll bring it back to council here eventually, so you guys have an idea of what this costs in the future. But it's a 10-year plan, and within 10 years, all of our agencies are supposed to have zero trash going into the environment. Other items to mention that our current efforts is we recently passed some city ordinances and policies. That's the Marine and Community Protection Ordinance. We banned extended polystyrene. We banned plastic bags. You know, that area could be expanded. And then finally, we also have our existing public works operation and maintenance. You know, so we have targeted trash collection at the beachfront areas and our park area. So that's the Thailand's areas that they have, and they walk the beach every single day, and they collect trash. And we do the same thing for our parks, at least 6 days a week at our park. The rest of the city is kind of as needed areas, because sometimes there's more effort needed in some areas than others. So I wanted to open this up for discussion and highlight kind of like the three areas we're looking to discuss. These are all things that, like I said, staff are already kind of brainstorming about, and we're coming up, and we're interested to hear council's opinion on some of these items. One is like to update the city ordinances and policies. You know, things like plastic straw ban. Do we want to go beyond what the state is proposing in the plastic straw ban? I mean, it excludes fast food chains, for example. Mini alcoholic bottles, you know, the things that are sold at 7-Eleven. That's something that we could look into and see if it's feasible to address some alcohol, but that touches on other code issues that we really got to look more closely in, and it wouldn't necessarily fall into our marine protection ordinance. Single-use plastic or a plastic-free policies in the city. You know, we have options to regulate special events or ban things altogether through different businesses. So I mean, how far do we want to go on addressing plastic? Another element is elements of our stormwater program that we can enhance. one area is that we have a very robust street sweeping program, but it's not effective if cars are parked there. You know, we've brought this back. I think one of the first years I was in council, we talked about enhancing the street sweeping program, and one of the areas that we looked at if it was necessary in the future to expand it is identify areas where you'd have no parking on the street sweeping days, and then you get to the curb. That has issues though in the neighborhood that people haven't moved their cars at 7 in the morning, and people ticketing that goes on. So it's something we got to really consider closely. What areas really need to have this, and where does it make sense? We could also implement a more proactive code enforcement case. You know, target specifically the abandoned vehicles that are in the community. I mean, not only that addresses leaking, it can maybe help address parking issues in some of the areas. We know the cars that don't move at all, but it's just a matter of resources to get out there and address it with code enforcement and the sheriff. Same thing, we could be more strategic about targeting commercial businesses and multifamily areas, because we know those are the high traction areas that are, and we have a program in place that we could be. Our code enforcement program now is more the friendly approach. You know, education, then escalate enforcement. We could escalate enforcement more stricter if we want to get stricter compliance on. And then finally, like, we can look to expand the capacities of public works. You know, on this. I mean, we just took on maintenance of Highway 75, so we're actually looking at opportunities to what type of maintenance activities do we want to contract out along Highway 75. But do we also want to consider some contracting out on other areas of our town that are important? Is it 9th Street, 13th Street, Old Palm, Imperial Beach Boulevard? So these are all things considering that we're discussing internally where the areas we want to put more effort on it. Bayshore Bikeway, for example. And then as of now, there's really no oversight what happens in our parks on the weekends. You know, so that's part of the reason why they kind of get trashed every Monday morning. You know, is there someone we're looking at maybe a weekend worker or a park ranger type job position that oversees activities along the non-beachfront areas. And then finally, maybe we want to look at investments in technology. You know, it'd be a lot more. We can do more if we were more efficient. You know, the app-based reporting that goes directly to public work. That's probably something we can probably ask more bandwidth on. So these are just some general discussion topics. There's a lot more ideas. There's a lot more pollution other than just trash that we can target. So with that, I was just going to open up for discussion on you guys and here to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Helmer. Questions, comments? Or everybody? Oh, Mr. Spriggs.
Chris, thank you very much for this comprehensive look at it. I mean, instead of piecemeal this or that or the other, polystyrene by itself, you know, we're looking at a whole range of issues regarding the cleanliness of our community, the pollution we're causing, or that emanates from our park and street use and all of that. I think it's really a great comprehensive look at it. I think we should be looking at an ordinance that is comprehensive as well, and that, I mean, we want to be the best environmental community we can be. Forget comparing ourselves with anybody else. We want to be the best that we can be, and we're not. And you've given us, I think, some food for thought in terms of how we could take some more steps towards that goal, if that's our shared goal. And I know it is, because we've all talked about it and we've acted on in a number of ways to indicate that we really want to be moving in this direction. So I definitely think plastic straws and the mini alcoholic bottles, we need to find ways to implement restrictions there over time, so that as in other locations, the vendors, and as we did with polystyrene, the vendors have an opportunity to make adjustment. You know, I don't think we want to be unfair to anybody, but we do need to bring the amount of plastic waste and spilled oil and that sort of thing. We need to bring that down with a conscious effort. So all of your item ones, I think, are things that we should move on. The street sweeping, you know, as I've gone door to door, there have been a surprising number of people who will be inconvenienced by having to move their cars for street sweeping, but who are disturbed by the the filthiness of some of our streets because we don't require cars to be moved everywhere in Imperial Beach. And so I think there may be some grumbling, but I think there's general community support for the idea that our streets and gutters ought to be clean and cleaned effectively rather than around the cars that are there. So I would support that. And I think the non-operative vehicles, commercial businesses and multifamily areas, certainly the non-operative vehicles, there are a lot of complaints about them, A, being an eyesore, B, the oil, and C, taking up parking spaces because they're just there and not ever moved. So I think we've got a trifecta of benefits that could be achieved for the community if we came up with an ordinance that would deal with that problem as well. And the O&M capabilities and public works, obviously we're going to need to take a look at that. I hope we could do it in a cost-effective way. The biggest, bang for the buck in terms of how to do that, whether contracting out or hiring somebody. I think I like the idea of a park ranger type person who's got authority to warn people and cite them if they don't comply, both on the beaches. Well, the lifeguards generally do that, but certainly in the parks, as you suggested. So I think we should move forward with something more comprehensive, for our future discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Spriggs. Mr. West.
Thank you, Mr. Elmer. I appreciate this, and something we've already talked to. Some of the things I want to talk about, but I do want to draw a little attention to the Get It Done app that is actually San Diego is working on, that are just rolled out, and it has a lot of the features that we're talking about here. And I think that is it's got some flaws in it, but I would like to see something like that used, and I think we can incorporate some things in there to actually enhance it, because I have, and City Manager Hall knows, I've sent him like 3 pictures of street sweepers actually driving down the middle of the road, and
just on that, but you sent him like 3,000 pictures.
Yeah, exactly. multiple pictures.
Okay, all right.
But
I'll credit. Our street sweepers or sweep program sort of was that we make them sweep the center of the road. We do make them do that. So that's part of the program.
Yeah, I agree.
That was it.
But that he definitely was not. There was more to the driving down the center than just that. But no, I definitely like the Get It Done app, and I think that it's effective. And I was speaking with Councilmember Ward from San Diego, and seeing some of the things that are in there, the graffiti removal, are all things that I think can really be done well to improve it and make it so a citizen has the ability to report it. Because one thing I've learned with my Clean Cities initiative, which has really done some great things, but when people have the ability to report things, it makes it so much easier, and they really want to do it. City Manager Hall, those are one of the 3,000 pictures I've sent him, so he knows all about those. So, but going back to the plastic straws, the statewide ordinances, I do not think goes far enough, and I would actually go, and I'll tell you a little story about. We've all seen the video of the straw coming out of the turtle's nose. Has everybody seen that? It's really graphic and really disturbing. And there was a little boy, when I was running the chair of Surf Rider, a little boy from Ohio who was 13 years old at the time, came to me after the event that we were holding at Surf Rider at and he's like, "What can I do about this?" And I just told him, I said, "Well, you need to go back to your community and ban plastic straws." And left it at that. And this 13-year-old boy went back to his little town of Ohio and actually did that. And it's a little town where he actually took a McDonald's and went after him. And now this McDonald's doesn't have any straw. And, we think that it's hard to do, but when a 13-year-old boy or a 15-year-old boy gets motivated about it, it happens and it gets done. So I think we should go further beyond the state ban. The alcohol bottles, I would actually like to lump this into anything that's single-use plastic. Single-use plastic is probably one of the biggest items that is littered throughout our community and throughout our country. And I would like to set a goal. Let's say by 2025 that we're going to say no to all single-use plastic bottles in our community. Say no to those things, because then this allows us to really look at single-use plastic bottles as a holistic thing instead of just one areas of it, because we all know that is one of the major items that is picked up throughout all I Love It Clean San Diego, Surf Rider, Coast Keeper, and Wild Coast. So I think regulating the special events. I know we've had some issues with this. We ended up with a whole couple hay bales because of an event that wasn't regulated. Well, it wasn't regulated. They just decided to leave them there. And so we need to make sure that we're putting in those things, and plastic free is important. There was an event that was happened. There was that about 200 plastic balloons were let loose right near our beach on a Saturday afternoon. And guess what? Where do those plastic balloons go? They go right into our ocean. And so we need to make sure that balloons are part of that. I do think that there's some contracting of regular maintenance in some priority areas is effective. But I will say that the Bayshore Bikeway probably is a temporary one, because once we get that filled with some great businesses that we see, I think that that'll get taken care of a lot on its own, because those businesses that are there, like Trident and Two Wheels, they're already policing those things as much as they can. But when we get the preserve working all the time, where every weekend, I don't know if you guys know what the preserve is about, but the preserve is really a business that's catered on holding weddings and special occasions. So obviously they're going to want to make sure that that area is clean. But if we can get that other building filled up as well, I think we're going to take care of a lot of it. So yes to regular maintenance, but maybe on a temporary area on some of our Bayshore Bikeway near the Bicycle Village. The rest of the Bayshore Bikeway, obviously there's some areas, but we do need to develop a plan for Highway 75. Highway 75 that we've just taken over, that's a bigger one. And I'd like to see cigarette butts included in that. There are programs out there that I Love It Clean San Diego and Hold On to Your Butts with Surfrider does, where they actually put ash cans out there. That cigarette butts, I don't know if people know this, but cigarette butts on your beach, sand is number one, cigarette butts are number two. So we should go after cigarette butts as well. And every cleanup that we do with the Clean Cities Initiative, we get a 5-gallon bucket of cigarette butts from our community. If we didn't get those, guess where they'd end up? Right in our ocean. So those are some of the things. Those are some of my ideas. And yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Patton.
Yeah, Mr. West, I value everything you just said. But I personally, when I came on city council, I didn't come on to ban things. I think there's a big fine line of banning things, because everything that we propose to ban can be bought all over town at other places just outside of our border. And I think there's a fine line. I'm just going to keep it at that. And we need to be cautious about going after banning things. Street sweeping, I know City Manager Hall, Mr. West, they know, because I live in an area that every other Monday I have to move my car. And if I don't move it, I get a ticket. If I forget to move it, or if I accidentally move it to the wrong side, which I've done, I get a ticket, and the ticket's prohibitive. It's $56. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a tank of gas. For some people, I think the ticket price doesn't fit the crime. The crime is, okay, you didn't move your car. We're driving around it this time. Here's a warning. Here's a $10 warning or whatever. But you can see I'm a little passionate about this, because it's not just me. It's everybody I know. And they're going, how about all these other streets, say Coronado, even in IB, that they just drive around cars, but they don't get tickets. So it's almost like I'm punished because I live closer to the beach. And that's just not me. I speak for pretty much all my neighbors. And then $56 excessive. Then on Mondays, if it's a holiday, say Veterans Day on a Monday, the guy still drives. And you still have cars. And I don't know if you ticket or not, but I kind of think you do. And I think that's wrong. And I think that needs to be fixed. So that's my thing on street sweeping. This is a big laundry list, and I think there's some great things. Park oversight. And you go down to any park on Saturday or Sunday at 6:30 in the morning, there's people taping off giant sections with caution tape. I mean, they're taking over massive amounts, and I think that's just wrong. I think it's just not fair for somebody that shows up at 10 and go, I have no park space. And and I don't know if ticketing's the way, but I think definitely if we had a city employee down there just to notify, say, listen, you know, this is we figure out what's an appropriate space for a party. You know, I don't know what that would be, but I think if they go, well, we have 200 people coming, go, this isn't the right location for you. You know, you need to rent a park.
Well, people, there's a permit process for park use, so.
Well, I mean, who does it? Not many. But and then as for that picking up the streets, I know Mr. West, I tell him all the time, I have a picker and a bucket. I walk my street almost after every weekend. And I think it'd be neat if we made pickers and buckets available to whatever concerned citizens that said, hey, listen, you know, I'd be happy to walk my street and pick trash. And I do it all the time. I enjoy doing it. And I don't know if other people would do it, but I think they would. I think people really value their neighborhoods. And a picker, I don't know what you buy those for, and a bucket, but I think it is nominal. And I think we'd get a lot of bang for our buck. And it's just a suggestion. And bang for your cigarette butt. But I think there's a lot of items here right now. And personally, I need a lot more time to really kind of decipher all this. But I think it's a great start. And I think it'd be great for you to kind of prioritize some items on here that you think that these are most important, and these are the ones that we could hit first. And that make that most important and make the most sense. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Bragg.
Thank you, Chris, for preparing this report for us. So I've listed some things as well that can kind of dovetail into what you have already done. At the top of my list would be, and Mayor Pro Tem West and I had discussed this in the past, that we're heading into the rainy season, and now is the time to look at all of our drains and ask neighbors in their neighborhoods to let's really do an assessment. I like your idea of the bucket patrol. You and I had kind of named it the drain patrol, but that will go a long way in cleaning not only up our streets, but also our beaches as well. So if somehow we can maybe kick that off. And then I think it's critical that we work with our business community on some of these issues on the single-use plastic. And I have to agree with you, Councilmember Patton. How are we going to go to some of these businesses and say, you can't is that what we're talking about? Selling single bottles of water? It's a single use. So that's a lot of their revenue in a beach community. So it's important that we get the buy-in from our business community before we would ever pass an ordinance that might be overstepping our bounds a little bit. It's important to me that we get the buy-in from all of our residents on some of these key components that you've added. One of the things that we've heard here in these chambers is we've had members of the community come forward and say, gee, I don't think we have enough trash receptacles in certain key areas. And I have to agree with that. And again, maybe that's something we can work with our local Chamber of Commerce, and a business could actually buy and advertise their own businesses on a trash can. And I've seen that done in other communities as well. Then going back to the trash and recycling receptacles, and Mr. Hall, I had forwarded you a picture, and I think I did you too, Chris, as well. They're not real big, but they are also used as an educational tool and tells you exactly, hey, this is what should go in this container. This is what should go in this side. And it was just educational. And then another component could be, you know, when you tell people this is the why, and Assistant City Manager Dush, that's what you always have taught us, is what's the why? Why are we doing this? And I think, again, going back to the buy-in, when the community realized that it's critical for our community.
The why and the what.
Yes, exactly. As far as speaking to our permit for our use in our parks, I think that's a good starting point for us. It was actually a celebration of life that had some balloons. And there were some comments made on Facebook. Do I want to be the balloon police? Do I want to ask a city employee to be the balloon police and go to perhaps a celebration of that and tell those people to put their balloons away or not release them? No, I don't. So I think it's on us that in our permit, we need to say, you cannot do this. Please do not bring balloons. So we can head some of this off at the pass or head it off before it hits the beach. And then along with that permit, not just for the parks, but special events as well, as ask them, okay, what is your trash mitigation plan? What does that look like? And who do we contact if you didn't meet that part of your plan, your special event permit or park application? So I think that it's incumbent, like I said, it's incumbent upon us to let's educate our community a little bit more than, I mean, we think that everybody knows, but they don't. And it's just something you just have to constantly hammer home. I believe we still have our contract with the partners with industry, and maybe perhaps, I mean, here is a proven group that we have a great track record with. Can we expand that? I think that it's worked well for us. Another contract that we had, I don't think we're using it anymore, but it was called the Donovan Crew. I don't know where that's landed or it's been discontinued, but again, it's an opportunity to reach out to some different partners perhaps and get the job done. And the last thing is I do agree the app is key. We've seen this at some of our conferences. It's really the key to efficiency. It's the key to the future. I think we can surely invest in it. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chris. So, Mr. West, is the city of San Diego implementing that app, or they're going to do it? Because the city of San Diego is covered. I mean, I've been on a tweet storm lately about the amount of garbage in our region, and we're going to meet with the head of Caltrans for San Diego because I'm so concerned about the piles of garbage everywhere. And frankly, the city of San Diego is covered in garbage everywhere. So are they implementing it? Because they don't seem to be doing it. Okay, because I mean, you know, it seems to be we've had an explosion of trash everywhere in California. Our roadways are filthy. I think IB does a pretty good job of keeping things clean. So I'm really concerned about the issue of personal responsibility. Maybe I'm a little old school. I grew up with the public service announcement of, remember the Native American was actually really Italian American actor and crying. Well, that's probably the best public service announcement ever made. But we have a litter bug problem in this city and in this country now. It seems people just throw their garbage everywhere, and you know, a lot of folks are drunks. That apparently people who drink alcohol in my neighborhood, it's fast food, alcohol, condoms, and cigarettes. Whatever they're doing, they're throwing in the street. So that's I'm just trying to think about how we can start working with other groups and maybe in cities to maybe more education and public service announcement. We put the electronic sign on Highway 75 on the weekend and say, "Don't trash our beach." I don't know. But, you know, my kids are lifeguards and they said the same thing. They just watch people throw garbage everywhere. In fact, they would go up to guys and say, "Please clean up your garbage." You go surfing in the morning and there's just beer bottles under the pier, not all the time. But it's definitely, you know, a problem. So anyway, that's something I'm concerned about. You know, Mr. Pan and Councilmember Reg, I used to think like you did, don't ban it, but I've just gotten to the point where these are giant corporations that are selling these straws and plastic bags that say they, quote, can't afford it. But Walmart and McDonald's and Burger King and Jack in the Box and 7-Eleven and Coors and everybody else can afford to figure out how to be a little bit more efficient. And I'm just concerned that we have a plastic bag ban, but I see every store in IB giving out plastic bags. So I think we need to be a lot more strict. Number two, yeah, the mini alcohol bottles are a problem, huge problem. And they're a problem not only because of the public health problem, and you know, we got a lot of folks drinking a lot of alcohol. You see they're everywhere. So I'm very concerned about the amount of garbage I see around big trash bins and how those are not maintained. I think that'd be a good place for code enforcement. And then I'm the chair of the what's called, we're going to have the World Beach Games here in San Diego next year. It's the first ever World Beach Games. It's a split off from the Olympics, so it's the street games for the Olympics. San Diego's the first city to host it. I'm the chair of the environmental committee. It's called the Clean Beach, Clean Games. They're actually influencing the entire Olympic movement. And they're coming to come up with they're having, I think, over 200 countries represented, thousands of athletes. It's going to be a completely plastic-free event. And what their goal is to basically have a template for how all events would be run in the San Diego region, that cities would come up with a commitment to actually, when they allow events, they would be plastic free and have these sort of guidelines. There's a lot of people that have figured out how to run events like Kaboo and Del Mar that are really sustainable. And I think it might be incumbent upon us to figure out how to maybe take that template. And we have permits, we say, like, trash mitigation, we don't allow single-use plastic. At our surf contest, we just have big plastic jugs of water and people bring their own water bottles. So I think, and we've done that here. So it doesn't have to be a big deal. And then finally, first, thanks for all the work that you're doing on this. I think it's really, really smart. I'm shocked by the fact that we're expected to not have trash in our trash crates. And I'm not sure what Caltrans done, but I just see more trash than ever. I don't know how it seems like we've gone backwards on that. So that's not us, but other agencies. So obviously some people have work to do. And it starts at the top. Our city doesn't tolerate trash, and we think it seriously, but it's clear that many cities and many agencies don't care anymore. So I think that's a problem. But finally, the people contributing to the trash are mostly getting that trash at fast food restaurants and the convenience stores around the city. It's very clear. If you walk along the Bayfront, my neighborhood, on the beach, and maybe we need to start thinking about, are we going to find can we tax cigarettes? Can we tax extra alcohol? Can we do a tax so that those businesses pay, or do we increase our permits to charge them for the amount of money that it costs our city to clean up their mess? Because they take no responsibility for doing that. And then I'll end here. Maybe I'm a little old school, but when I was a kid, I didn't have a trash bin every 5 feet or 10 feet. We just walked to the trash in our pocket, and we didn't have a lot of trash because we don't buy a lot of stuff at fast food restaurants and stuff. But I just don't know that providing more trash bins for litter bugs. And on the Bayfront, you see piles of trash and areas where the trash. The litter bugs and the drunks, they just throw their trash anywhere they want and they don't care. So anyway, but so I'm for a comprehensive plan, and I like this approach, and I think I appreciate you giving us some options to talk about.
Mayor, some of the things that Chris didn't get a chance to mention, but that we are looking at in our parks, because again, we want to encourage good behavior as much as we can. One of the things we need to look at is providing the filling stations so that people can refill, because the regular water fountains are very difficult to refill, the reusable bottles. And even some of the single-use plastic, they might reuse them again if we provide some of the filling stations like we've done here at City Hall, where you can go and just fill that up. So we're looking at some locations where we might be able to put in those filling stations so that people have that option in our parks. And I think that might help. The other thing that we've talked about is maybe going to a deposit-based system. One of the things that really helps is if you have $1,000 of someone's money and say you can have it back if you leave the park clean when you leave, that gives them 1,000 reasons to clean up our parks. So we're looking at maybe going to a deposit system that, again, there's enough of a deposit to keep their attention, but we've always found that those events that have deposits just seem to be cleaned up. And then one of the things that Courtney did, and I think that they did it voluntarily, but they worked together. If you'll notice the Frogman event, they told us that they would leave that event, there would be no trash in this community. And I was actually standing at the starting line with Councilman Patton, and one of the riders came up and dropped a piece of trash. The judges stopped him and said, "You can't go until you go pick up that piece of trash." And he went, they picked it up, and he lost, I don't know how many seconds in a race. So if we can encourage that in some of our events. And so I think, again, I understand there has to be a balance between the carrot and the stick. We probably need both, but we don't want to forget about the carrot. And so we wanted to make sure that we're giving people good excuses to reuse the plastic by having some of those filling stations and stuff. So we'll look at some of those positive ways of doing that as well. And I do think that there's a balance. Not everyone reacts to the carrot, not everyone reacts to the stick. So we'll try to find some of that balance in our ordinance.
Last thought. There's another element to this, and that is that we're a visitor serving community. So we do have a huge number of people come to Imperial Beach to enjoy the facilities, including the park and the beaches, etc.
And use the beachfront bathroom.
Right. And we don't have any way really of capturing revenue from a lot of those visitors that we then have the cost of cleaning up after. But certainly when it comes to the permitting process, when we have that ability to permit a specific activity or event, we should do what you just suggested. Make it very clear what the expectations are and take a deposit. We also, I think, need to, just pulling back a little bit for our own community. And I think this is where the mayor has been going all along. Maybe he didn't articulate it exactly this way, but we really do need to have a culture of respect for our own community, our own neighborhoods, our own streets, our own beaches. It shouldn't be Imperial Beach folks tossing their trash everywhere. It shouldn't be. But if it is, it means we need to think about how do we change that culture if it is our folks, so that at least it's not us that's doing it to ourselves. There's the saying, you shouldn't where you eat, and that applies to litter as well as everything else. And so I don't know how we do that, but I think it's something that maybe the best practices in some other communities, we could look at what their signage is, what their slogans are, their taglines, to sort of create this culture of respect for our own city, our own streets, our own beaches. Thank you.
Great, thank you. With that item, thanks to you, Mr. Helmer. Item 5.2, discussion regarding speed limit establishment in the city of Imperial Beach. Public Works Director Minatelli will give the report. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Today we'll be talking about the speed limits and how they get established. My mistake. And there's really, we've had a lot of reoccurring questions regarding speed limits, specifically, how are they set? When was the process last completed in Imperial Beach? And then what can the city do to calm traffic? Very clearly, speed limits they need to be supported by an engineering and traffic study to be enforceable. The study involves a survey to determine the 85th percentile speed of the vehicles using that roadway, and then limits are rounded either up or down to the nearest 5 mile per hour increment. It's a pretty straightforward process. The last time the city did this was in April 2013, and we passed an ordinance updating speed limits across a variety of streets in town. The bulk of this conversation will be about traffic calming strategies. As you recall, back in September, we passed, you passed a program regarding the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program, and this is the concept of introducing some traffic calming elements into our neighborhoods. Traffic calming is an attempt using engineering strategies to reduce potential for traffic accidents, increase safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, reduce vehicular speeds, and also it can be used to discourage cut-through traffic through neighborhoods. The traffic management program, some of the key features, it's objective and data-driven, provides a step-by-step workflow for citizens and staff to push through various improvements to attempt to calm traffic. There's plenty of neighborhood engagement and input on certain larger scale projects. And the key to it is it provides a toolbox for potential solutions related to traffic calming. We didn't go over this last time. Most of those you've seen before. But today I'll just lay out a few of the types of improvements. We have basically phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 improvements. Phase 1 improvements are kind of the lowest level improvements. We've got something like total about 40 strategies in the toolbox. Phase 1 improvements, things like increasing the sheriff presence, using, adding speed limit signs, moving the traffic sign that we've got and having it, kind of yell at people if they're speeding, that kind of thing. There's a lot of options related to the phase 1 improvements. Phase 2 improvements are things like textured pavement, speed humps, again, a variety of options related to speed 2 and 3. Phase 2 and 3 improvements are things like this. It's a little higher dollar cost to get these to happen, a little more impact on the neighborhood. And so it's just, we've put through a whole workflow to kind of make sure that as we do the higher impact items, the neighborhood is involved in that input, and council as well. Further examples, narrowing of traffic lanes, chokers, these kind of things. These are all tried and true options for dealing with traffic calming in a community. So that was my basic presentation. Happily answer any questions.
Great. Questions, comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Patton.
Sure. I'm sorry. With the traffic calming humps and what'd you call the other one? The raised textured pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Have we ever done that in Imperial Beach?
I don't. We certainly have. I think we've done speed tables. The crosswalk across 13th Street is a raised crosswalk. So there has been certain things. We've certainly done textured pavement at the crosswalk, or down by the Seacoast has kind of textured pavements there at the crosswalks. Various things like this have occurred in town.
So textured. So I'm driving on, say, 163. I veer off the main road just a little, and my wheels start hitting texture. Is that what you mean?
This is a little. This specific one is about putting it at the entrance to neighborhoods. It lets people know, okay, I'm leaving an arterial and I'm entering a neighborhood now. That's the kind of the concept for this specific one. And again, we've got a whole booklet of these. They've got various advantages, disadvantages to each one. But that's what that one's
is
about.
It usually cutting into it, or is it actually putting
no,
surface?
It's usually instead of having asphalt, you might have kind of a concrete surface, something to just distinguish that you're now entering a neighborhood and this is not a roadway.
Actually, I like that idea a lot, other than the speed humps. But I don't know, if you have an area, you try it out.
A lot of different solutions for a lot of different types of problems. Each neighborhood's a little different. Speed humps, it can be a great solution. It can also be, if you're living next to one, it can be a problem too. So it really depends on what you're seeing happening at the neighborhood. It depends on, are these visitors driving through town, or are these simply people going back and home? Are they local? You really got to see what's going on. It's very specific. You need to specifically tailor the solutions to what we're seeing in the neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
Thanks for the report. Just a couple quick comments. The methodology for setting or lowering, particularly speed limits, is well established, and I think we would be, as you're suggesting, but you didn't quite say it that way, I think we would be foolish to try to change speed limits by measuring existing speeds and then taking the 85th percentile of that and establishing our speed limits, or however that 85th percentile works. Because every time we've tried that, we get a higher speed limit than the community want, or that the council want. So I think we've got to figure out some cost-effective ways to slow folks down in IB before we do such a survey and post those limits. We already have on local streets, our ordinance says 25 miles an hour. It's already there, but there's not very much signage, and there's not very much low-cost traffic management on some of these neighborhood streets. As I've gone around the neighborhoods, probably the number one or number two concern is by far speeding. And we talked about this at a recent council meeting, and I mentioned that it's the outliers, it's not most people, but all it takes is that one driver to run over a kid, and then we've got, we haven't done what we should have done to try to address the issue, and then we have that. I think ultimately we need to really consider a 25 mile an hour limit throughout Imperial Beach, period. And that to me would make it very clear, we can get to that point, that anyone driving around Imperial Beach who's exceeding that is breaking the law and is subject to getting a ticket. This is really about quality of life for the residents and the neighborhood, and so I think we need to find a low-cost way to bring these speeds down before we do any more tests. Finally, another thing that has become very clear, and this agenda topic allows me to raise it, there is uniform, I would say 100% concern in the community about going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes on IB Boulevard from Connecticut onward to the east. Uniform. Everybody that has a concern, that's aware of that change that I've talked to is opposed to it. People don't understand it. It's counterintuitive that we can retain the same commuting time to get to the 5 with half the lanes that exist right now. So there's a large segment of our community that is very concerned about that and is not with us on making that change on IB Boulevard. So I'm just saying that. The one street that we have where we would have a speed limit that's in excess of 25 miles an hour would be IB Boulevard if it was 2 lanes on each side. In my view, the rest in the neighborhood is a different story. So anyway, those are my comments, and I would hope that you could come back with some ways of traffic calming that don't involve major infrastructure changes, bulb out, etc. Some ways that we could start getting these speeds down, and also the streets that are the most impacted by speeding, the shortcuts that people take. I think you have a pretty good idea what those are. We would start there, I would think.
Councilmember Bragg.
Thank you. Mr. Minicelli, you're a brave man to bring, anytime you want to talk about reducing speed or speed limits in a community, it shows me you're very brave. But it is a very real concern, not only just in Imperial Beach, you know, even from the town that you recently moved from. My concern is, my questions are, you've got a lot of tools in this toolbox, so I'm concerned about how would they be deployed in each neighborhood. Would the people in those neighborhoods decide which tool they wanted to use? How are we going to foster that community engagement to get that done? And I think there are some low-cost measures that we could take, just like on this slide, painting the speed limit on the road, you know, I think is one way to go. That it doesn't increase the amount of signage on the streets either, but I think it's effective. I think one of the other things that is effective is, and we see it around town, is individuals have taken it upon themselves to purchase signs that say slow down, children present. I think those are effective too. I would just like to see a more uniform sign if that's something that each neighborhood would like to pursue. I know they work for me, and I know what really works for me is the digital signs that say, you're going, I'm not going to tell you how fast I was going on 163 the other day, but it made me slow down. Let me just say that. It did make me slow down. So I think the new sign that you have purchased, we have purchased, is going to be very effective in helping us to achieve these goals. It is a very real concern in this community, and I hear it all the time. God, I was at home and somebody was going down the street 60 miles an hour. Well, they probably weren't going 60, but when you're sitting in your living room and you hear, you know, I'm going to use the vehicle of a Mustang, they just sound loud and fast. Mm-hmm. They're probably not going that fast. It's the perception, but also it's the perception of, gosh, is my street really safe? So I think that's something that we need to achieve, is letting our residents know we take it real serious. And yes, we're doing everything we can to keep our streets safe. I really do like the idea, this phase 1 of just parking a car, and, you know, getting that message, you know, just seeing a police car on your street, your sheriff car on the street, that'll make you slow down as well. So.
And what's great about this machine, so getting back to the phase 1 solutions are very low effort type things. I mean, it's putting the machine out there. It's putting the, you know, a little more presence of police, or it's putting the striping down the road. We're not going to go to a lot of outreach on stuff like that because it's going to be pretty quick and easy. The nice part about the machine, so what we're finding is, right now it's all about data gathering. Quite frankly, it's on. You know, every time I get a request, I'm putting it on a different street. We're getting requests from residents. We're getting requests from staff, and we're doing a lot of data gathering. We're just trying to figure out between streets where are our real problems, and we've found some. There's some streets I'm concerned with, and so we're taking that data, and I meet with the sheriff's traffic sergeant, and I sit down with them and I show here exactly what the data states, and by the way, it tells you exactly what time of day to take a look at that. So he's got his efforts that he's going to do related to this, and we're going to do our own efforts. If I can get a second machine, that kind of thing, we will put the machine back out there and now have it, like you said, yell at people as they drive by. And what the machine actually does, it can actually tell the difference between, you can actually see the people slow down, and it'll tell you it's made this much of a difference. So it's a matter of seeing how bad the street is, and then getting back out there later on to make an impact on it, and then go back again and see if it, did it hold, did it work? If it doesn't work, if it's not keeping, or if it's just something we got to do on a quarterly basis on certain streets, that so be it. If that doesn't work, now we've got to get to bigger ticket items. And the reality is we're going to have to budget for, let's create a project, certain amount of money each year, and start to hit, the streets in order of priority or concern, and go after them a little bigger. Those projects would involve a significant amount of outreach, because anything we do on your street is going to affect.
I really do appreciate that, Eric. And I think that, it's the reason why we're doing that. Once the community learns that it's for safety, it's the safety of our children, our residents, our bicycle riders, people in cars, the buy-in will be there. If we just do it without letting them know why, it's not going to be as effective. And I did want to take the opportunity. I see our lieutenant in the back, and I had a conversation with you the other morning. I really did appreciate something that you said to me, is that every time he comes to work, he takes a different route. So he's not always just, you find things differently when you take a different street. So I really wanted to thank you for doing that. You're the eyes and ears on the street, though, and it's effective. And you shared with me how effective that was. So I really do appreciate that as well. Those are really all my comments at this time. I would love to see this move forward. And again, Eric, I really do trust your judgment on, the tools that work the best in the different neighborhoods. So I look for you to be the guiding light on that.
I appreciate that. Actually, the item you mentioned, those little signs that people put up, that's one of the items in the toolbox. You'll see it right there.
Right, Mr. Watts.
Eric, thank you very much. When you brought the machines to us in September, I immediately thought that we should have another one of those machines. I think that it's really that, I think when we can have a data-driven approach to anything, really helps us solve those issues that are so prevalent. I mean, traffic is everywhere, that people are concerned about it. And I think the other thing I think is really important that I brought up in September is that when you do bring a sign out there, is to educate, take at the end of it, do some outreach with those community members, to even set it up saying, hey, we're going to have a meeting here at the end of it to say, this is what we gathered from this, and this is why we did this. This person made a complaint, and this is what we came up with, and here are the results of our thing. And then we can really, because it is very interesting when you sit in your home and somebody drives down your street, you think, oh my God, that guy's doing like 40, but really he probably was just doing 25. You don't know that. So it's really important for us to take the time with these machines to educate our people so they can be part of it. I mean, that's what really makes it effective, when we're all educating our own people to police themselves in many ways. And that's something that the mayor preaches a lot as well. So I would really like to see us try to move forward on getting another one of these machines. And then I think everyone who's knocked on doors, all of us have done it a million times or lots of times. We know the streets. I could tell you 15 streets off the top of my head that are already people complain about to this day. And, and there may be some reasons. So put it out there. I think the phase one with the sheriff, I am concerned because of the limited footprint that we do have with our sheriff, how much we can really spread our sheriff even more thin. However, though, it does do two things. It limits speed, but it also makes people feel very secure when they see a sheriff in his car sitting in their neighborhood. So it kind of be a really interesting twofold thing. I do believe, though, that I, on the other hand, on the doors that I've knocked on this time for the councils, not everyone is agreeing. Not everyone disagrees with IB Boulevard when you educate them. I think that's one of those things that you have to take the time. It's our job to, I don't think, a lot of people don't even realize that we did studies on that, that we took the time to educate, they're like, well, these crazy council members just did that out of their own. Well, no, we didn't. When we take the time to educate them why we did it, when we show them why it's about, when you show them that this is a science behind it that really allows for that, people become more and more receptive to it, to say the least. And it makes our community, people believe that the amount of cars we can get in and out of traffic makes our communities better. No, when we can walk and ride our bike, that's what makes communities better, in my opinion. So that's fine. So, more una machina, and some more outreach, I think, is really important. Very good.
It was interesting. I took a family surf trip to Australia in early September, and two things that they really cracked down in Australia are speeding. You don't have any speeding, and they have speed cameras everywhere. So, in fact, they even have average speed cameras where they measure your average speed on the highway. So it's serious. And I got a ticket there back in 2009 and a speed trap with a car with a speed camera on it. So that was interesting. But and the other thing is litter. You don't see litter anywhere in Australia because they really encourage people to report litter bugs. So anyway, so someone's figured out. But I'd like to see us continue to move forward with our road improvement program. It's really, to me, it's about road safety and mobility, and it's making sure kids can get to school without getting run over by a car, and seniors can cross the street, and people can walk to school, et cetera. So to continue that safe route to school program, including IB Boulevard, 9th Street with 4 lanes on it. People use that as the area between IB Boulevard and Green Field on 9th is used as a drag strip. So, and residents are complaining about that. So we've got some work to do, including on Palm Avenue. So just working on those 3 areas strategically will really help us improve road safety and reduce car crashes. So anyway, so I want to thank you guys doing that and coming to us with this. And glad we have the ability to actually talk about some of these issues. So thanks. All right, item 5.3 is cultural. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Eric, you're doing a great job. That's a consensus.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Cultural and structural transitions in the city of Imperial Beach and strategies for the future. That was a really interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds more like an academic monograph than a council.
I had Councilman Spriggs write that title.
Okay.
Academia.
Okay.
Those are big words for me. Mayor and Council, I do want to stray a little bit from, normally I like to just have conversations with the City Council, but because this is a personnel related item, I just think it's better that perhaps I read the staff report to you, because again, I want certainly the public to understand it, but again, want to make sure that we're being careful about what's said about personnel related issues. The mayor and council have established expectations for the culture of the city in a variety of ways, including the adoption of the city's mission statement, public statements, and direct instruction. It is clear to staff that the City Council expects the highest level of ethical behavior, transparency, public outreach, fiscal responsibility, and professional work practices, using the mission statement as a guide for all decision-making. However, in addition to those expectations, the City Council has indicated support for positive and energetic work environment, a pleasant and inviting atmosphere, and management practices that result in happy employees, less employee turnover, and increased job satisfaction. By any measure, the City of Imperial Beach is blessed with a team of dedicated and effective employees, although average wages, employees per capita, and other employment measures lag behind other municipalities in the region. Imperial Beach continues to achieve remarkable milestones in comparison with other cities.
Imperial, my dad in the Oh, was there too?
Imperial Beach.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Imperial Beach has the second lowest crime rate in San Diego County. The city had the highest percentage of growth in real property valuation. The city of Imperial Beach has no municipal debt. The city is taking proactive actions to limit the exposure to future pension obligations. The city has one of the highest ratings for road conditions in the region. The interest in commercial and residential development is all high. The city does not function in a financial structural deficit. These are the classic measurements of a community's health, and it would be difficult to imagine better scores for a city. None of these accomplishments occur by accident. They are the result of solid leadership from the elected officials, both past and present, and the effectiveness and dedication of the city's workforce. This report provides staff the opportunity to inform the City Council and residents about some of the more recent transitions in the employment structure of the city and some strategies that will be used as we move forward through some anticipated changes. This information allows the elected officials and residents to navigate the complexities of local government and provides assurances that taxpayer dollars are being spent in the most effective manner possible. Employees in Imperial Beach are often expected to wear more than one hat. We have a relatively small workforce, so some employees have more than one job title, and almost all employees are expected to have a wide variety of skills. This leads to a very dynamic and well-trained workforce, but it is not for everyone. Employees that perform better working in a single task do not do well in a setting like Imperial Beach. Likewise, Imperial Beach is perfect for employees that like to engage in a variety of tasks and don't like the monotony that is often prevalent in larger organizations. The management staff is no different in this regard. The city manager, assistant manager, and deputy city manager work together to provide oversight and direction to the employees of the city. The city manager has oversight of the public safety elements of the organization, including the sheriff, fire department, and marine safety, in addition to working with the elected officials and coordinating with the assistant city manager and deputy city manager. The assistant city manager also provides the assistant city manager is also the community development director and provides oversight for the development and maintenance related functions of the city. These functions include the community development, public works, information technology, and natural resources departments. The deputy city manager is also the human resources and risk manager and provides oversight to the administrative functions of the city, including human resources, the city clerk, recreation and senior citizens, and the administrative services department. These divisions allow each function of the city, public safety, development, maintenance, and administrative, to have direct oversight and support. However, as previously stated, the managers are expected to complete more than one single function due to the nature and fiscal resources of the city. Imperial Beach is blessed with a solid group of department heads. Like most positions in the city, the department heads are expected to complete multiple tasks. There are 9 departments in the city, including the city clerk, human resources, recreation and senior citizens, fire, marine safety, natural resources, public works, community development, and administrative services. The city also contracts with the San Diego County Sheriff's Department for police services. For the purposes of this report, it is not necessary to list the more specific functions of these departments, but that information is readily available if needed. There's a missing part to an otherwise well-oiled machine. In December of 2017, the Imperial Beach Administrative Services Director, Doug Bradley, was tragically killed while out of the country on vacation. Recognizing the challenge of filling such a critical position, a nationwide search was conducted by Bob Murray and Associates, and several qualified candidates were selected for interviews. Within a short time frame, several of the candidates had decided to remain with their current employer. Following interviews with the remaining candidates, an offer was presented to the most qualified candidate. Stating retirement reasons, candidate also decided to stay with their current employer. The remaining pool did not provide a candidate with the necessary abilities to perform the functions of the job. Staff continues to recruit to fill this important position. Because the deputy city manager has the skills necessary to administer the risk management element and can provide personnel oversight for the department, the recruitment has been modified to a more traditional budget administrator or finance manager in hopes of attracting a wider array of candidates. The current applicants are being screened for qualifications, and staff is using personal contacts to expand the pool of candidates. It is important to note that Imperial Beach is fortunate to have an amazing finance staff. The day-to-day financial management of the city is in great hands. There is certainly an increased level of oversight from the city manager and deputy city manager, but they continue to meet and exceed all expectations. Deputy city manager worked very closely with Doug on personnel-related matters, including evaluations, promotions, education, etc., and is aware of the skill sets and abilities of the staff where some special attention may be needed. Luckily, in these areas, we have a fairly high level of expertise on our management team. Finally, there's a tremendous opportunity for growth and potential promotion within the existing finance staff. Although they have quietly gone about their duties with little fanfare, they are very talented and dedicated to the betterment of Imperial Beach. They have carried on the best practices implemented by the former director and continue to find new ways to be even more effective. They are leading the way through the implementation of new finance software, which is a monumental task. It's been really challenging. that has been essentially seamless for outside clients and the public at large. The management team is assessing the skill sets and abilities of our existing staff during this season of transition. The City Council has directed the City Manager to identify strategies for retaining good employees so that Imperial Beach, as a smaller employer with limited resources, does not simply become a training ground for other municipalities. The City Manager has stated that although the City of Imperial Beach may not be the highest paying jobs in the region, they are the best and most rewarding jobs in the region. Some of these strategies for the future include a positive work environment. The management team and the department heads have been charged with making sure that the work environment in Imperial Beach is positive and enjoyable. Employee outreach, such as the new wellness team that organizes opportunities for employees to break out of their routines and participate in physical activities, has been well received. The management staff meets annually with every division to discuss ways to make the task more efficient and effective. Many improvements to city operations have resulted from listening to those closest to the action. Every employee should see a future in the organization. Employees that know there are opportunities for advancement and learning new skills are motivated to perform at a higher level and more likely to stay with our organization. The fiscal savings from having a well-trained, loyal employees rather than constantly training new staff is staggering. Investment in our current staff will be the key to our future. Increase the confidence level of staff. We have some very talented staff members that don't realize just how effective they are and can become. We need to provide the training and support for employees to stretch their abilities. As an old baseball analogy, you're getting it. As an old baseball analogy, now I lost my spot. We need to train our employees on the farm. It will be hard for us to land quality free agents, but we can make sure we hire quality entry-level staff and then give them the resources, training, and opportunities to grow and develop with the city. And finally, improve compensation. As the community continues to improve its financial stability, it has been a stated goal to improve our compensation level to where we are able to pay the median salary in the county. Although we are still well below average, we've made progress, and our employees are grateful and motivated by the efforts to improve compensation. This report was created to provide a comprehensive personnel update, address one of the missing parts on the team, and identify some of the strategies that will be employed to retain and motivate our amazing staff. The management team is aware that the City Council does not desire to be involved in personnel matters and recognizes the importance of keeping political pressure separated from personnel decisions. However, given the recent changing environment of Imperial Beach, staff felt it was appropriate to provide the City Council with an overview of the current status of the personnel in Imperial Beach, and thank you for your support. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Hall. So I think that I had requested that we have this discussion really to talk about the CFO position and the administrative services position. So for me, it was just a point to reaffirm my desire to make sure that we continue that search, and that just to make it clear for the public and also just for transparency reasons that, at the end of the day, we can't grow this city, we can't manage the city and do all the kinds of things we do unless we have someone leading that. And really, the finance side of it is really, really an important position. And so for me to give you that support to say that I think that's really important. So I'll make sure to open it up. But second, and I think the second thing is with employees that we, make sure that we have places that are pleasant places to work for our employees. The reality is City Hall is, needs to be improved. I think we're slowly doing that. Public Works, obviously, that's not necessarily a great building either. And so lifeguards have a great building. But anyway, our sheriffs, frankly, need a new building, and so do our firefighters. That's something that I think about. We make sure our employees have. We start thinking about that as we plan for the future. What are we going to do to make sure that our employees and our programs are and have good facilities. And number three, I think the salaries are important. That we start thinking about why we're doing the things we're doing to generate revenue, so we can reinvest back in having, make sure our employees aren't suffering because they want to work at a cool place. So anyway, that's it. Mr. West.
That is a great looking group of council people. I just want you to know. But I do think it's important to reiterate, our country is in a very unique time. I mean, full employment for our country is at 4%. We're at 3.9%. 3.9. So it is a challenge. And I know as a person who has a master's in public administration, finding there are less and less people out that are coming to work or to these cities with this, and it's a challenge. And I was just working with the University of Colorado, where I got my master's degree at their SPA, and they're having a hard time getting quality candidates. So it's a challenge. So I appreciate it. Thank you for giving us the heads up and giving us the information there, City Manager Hall.
Councilmember Spriggs.
I echo the comments. I think we have a great staff. We need to do everything that we can to continue to create a work environment that allows staff to feel that this is the best place in the world for them to work, even if we can't pay them the highest salaries in the county. I think that you've done a good job of that, Mr. City Manager. And anything that you think that we need to act on to enhance that work environment, please bring it to us so that we can consider it and give you the support that you need, because they are our true asset, and we can't get anything done without them, and they do a great job. And the way you've laid out how they are all involved in multiple kinds of activities, there's two sides to that coin. Some people think that maybe they may be overworked, but on the other hand, they're developing skill sets and using different skills, different functions, a variety of things that they do every day that does contribute to the satisfaction that people have as well. And I hope that they all hear that we really do appreciate them. The search for the finance manager, budget administrator, or finance manager, you've downgraded that position from administrative director. That's a double-edged sword. Sometimes a job with broader responsibilities is more attractive. And we've had the conversation before. I hope you continue to use a search firm. I hope you're satisfied that they are the most effective search firm for this task. I hope that they are mining the field of cities that have maybe second and third level people. They may be bigger cities that have talent that we might be able to attract to run their own shop. This is I've done a lot of recruitment in different incarnations that I've been in, and when you can find a rising star who's got talent, motivation, and experience managing a horizontal operation across, but under one or two layers down, that person is looking for an opportunity, and it takes a special search effort to identify such folks, even because they're often not on the job market. So I wish you good luck. And again, if there's anything that we can do to help, please let us know.
Thank you. I just have to say I was a little surprised to see a personnel issue on our agenda, but Mr. Hall, I think you laid it out very well. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the staff members that are in the room. You're the front line. You hear it all. You field all the stuff, whether it's good or bad. So personally, I wanted to thank you for that. Mr. Hall, your management team and those gathered here, you guys make us look good. And I want to thank you for that. You do a lot of damage control. Some of it, a lot of it, self-inflicted by us. And I'd like to thank you for that as well. As we move forward, it has always been a concern of mine that we do lose good employees because of better wages elsewhere. So in the past, we've lost some great employees, and I've asked them, why are you leaving? They're like, Councilmember Bragg, I'd stay here for the rest of my life. I just can't make enough money here to make it work. Some move for maybe some other reasons, but underlying, I think that's the main one. Do they want to leave Imperial Beach? No. Would they love to come back and work for us? Yes. So again, it's just, for me personally, it's been a great 12 years working with our staff. You guys are awesome. Mr. Hall, I know a lot of times after council meetings, I've asked you to voice my concerns and my comments and my gratitude to the staff. You always have a staff meeting the next day. I hope you will take my comments tonight and repeat them to your management team. Thank you.
Great. With that, thank you, and appreciate the discussion and the ability to give feedback. And with that, the regular meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Wow, on time. Perfect.
Good job there. Keep this on task.